around a lot. I think he might travel more than me.
Nomad Capitalist.
The Nomad Capitalist.
The Nomad Capitalist.
There are no rational arguments to support the ideas which created this country.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
This is the future of freedom and opportunity. This is the Nomad Capitalist Report.
From the world's freest economy, Hong Kong. Hello, traders. I'm Andrew Henderson on the Nomad Capitalist Report. Welcome to the show. This is where we discuss finding personal and economic freedom and protecting yourself from bankrupt governments. Protecting your money, protecting your wealth, and not only that, learning how to make more wealth looking in the world's new safe havens. Glad you could be with us. Thanks for being here on the show, whether you're listening on iTunes, whether you're listening on nomadcapitalist.com, whether you're listening to us on the good old AM radio in the land of the free. It's great to have you with us. Actually, was nice to chat with a few people the other day who heard our show. Some people in Chicago, actually, who have been listening to the show for a long, long time, ever since we've been on WCKG out in the Chicagoland area. So thanks to all the guys over at WCKG 1530 in Chicago for spreading our message there and telling people that even as Illinois and even as Chicago are raising income taxes, business taxes, parking fees, even as everything in Chicago is going through the roof, there are other options. There are places you can go. And that's what we talk about here on this show. So it's great to have you with us, and great that those of you who have been longtime listeners are sharing the show. We've been seeing a lot of new people tuning in, a lot of new listenership, and a lot more listenership. So I thank you for doing that. But I wanted to do something a little bit differently today. There's a lot in the news, a lot going on. Burger King is in the crosshairs. We talked about that last week with criminal politicians like Sherrod Brown, who are calling for a boycott on Burger King. I have to admit, I flew into Hong Kong this morning from Kuala Lumpur, and I've been traveling a lot lately. And I have to admit that the last time I was at the airport in Kuala Lumpur, I made sure to go and get myself a Whopper at the airport Burger King. I hate to be the tourist. I hate to seem like the stereotypical white guy queuing up for the hamburger. But I wanted to show my support for Burger King and sink my choppers into one of those Whoppers. Put my money where my mouth is. But there's a lot going on. The price of being an American is higher. More and more people are being deemed suspicious by the U.S. government and other governments, thanks to new laws that allow the government to know everything that you're up to. And I'm seeing that here in Hong Kong as well, where just trying to open a bank account is very, very, very difficult these days in Hong Kong. And many banks have just outright prohibited taking on foreigners, and especially Americans, because just of all the madness going on all around the world, they don't want to be part of it. They don't need it. This is more than ever a time that you need to take action. You need to be a man or a woman of action out there plotting your escape, plotting how you're going to stay free, plotting how you're going to keep your wealth. Because the trend, as we always talk about it, is against people keeping their own wealth, against people having freedom, more and more in favor of government, more and more in favor of collectivism, socialism, communism, totalitarianism, tyranny, etc. And so what I wanted to do today was teach and provide some information to all the new listeners who've been coming on board, people who found us through the number of radio shows and podcasts that I've been interviewed on recently, people who have found us because longtime listeners are spreading the word. However you found us, I wanted to introduce some information that can help you make sure you're getting the most out of this show and the most out of life. And for those of you who've been listening for a long time, this will be a good refresher course. Because we all lose a little bit of sharpness over time. It's good to be reminded of what is important and what we need to do. And so I wanted to go over the tenets of Nomad Capitalist. One of the tenets of nomad capitalism is that you need to be pragmatic and action-taking. This is something that I see as as perhaps one of the biggest problems right now in the world, where so many people, especially in the Western world, especially in the United States even more so, believe that things are perfectly hunky-dory right now. They think that the government encroaching on freedoms, government encroaching on wealth, if they don't accept it, if they don't support it even, then they're oblivious to it. You've got more and more people who are saying, yes, please take that guy over there's money and give it to me. Or yes, that guy should be locked up in a prison cell. Or hey, that guy shouldn't be allowed to fly. Or that guy shouldn't be allowed to do that. Or whatever. Many people are actively advocating for you to lose your rights and for you to lose your money. But the rest of the population, all around the world really, is basically just sitting idly by and claiming to be oblivious. And then you've got a small percentage of people who are awake to what's going on. Those are the people who listen to this show. It's you, it's I, it's those of us in this community. You understand that you can't run up $100 trillion in red ink and be a fiscally stable economic superpower forever. You can't have a world reserve currency forever. You can't do these things. You and I realize that you can't chase every company out of town with the highest tax rates in the world and expect businesses to stay there forever. You can't treat people like garbage and expect them to not go elsewhere. You and I understand those things. But when I say that you need to be pragmatic, you need to be action-taking, what I mean is that you need to focus on more than just complaining about the problem. I meet with and hear from and read about a lot of people in our community who are out there fighting the good fight, spreading the word, talking about the evils of government wealth confiscation, dwindling freedoms, all the things we talk about here and at nomadcapitalist.com. But when the rubber meets the road, most of them believe that taking action stops at spreading the word. Some of these people believe that if we merely vote for the right people, that'll solve our problems. Some of these people believe that spreading a message, perhaps of anarchy or whatever the message is, they believe that that will solve the problem, that if we just get enough people on board, that things will change. And here at Nomad Capitalist, we don't believe that. We believe in being pragmatic. I remember when I first got interested in politics, it was a very, very young age. When I was 5 years old, I took the encyclopedia and actually went through and memorized each and every one of the United States presidents in order, along with all of their details. So I was once in this camp of better government too. But I went through when I was 5 years old and I did that. And it wasn't that much longer thereafter that I got interested in politics, and I started becoming very active in studying and taking positions in the political world in the United States. And ever since I can remember, I was reading political mail, I was reading political propaganda, what have you, talking about how Social Security was going to go broke, and if we don't do something now to save it, we'll be screwed. I was reading about how all the different things that would go wrong if we didn't solve the problem. And I believe that that's true. There's no chance in hell that I or any of you who are my age or younger, or even some who are older, are seeing a nickel in Social Security. Zero chance. It just won't happen. The system will be broke. And even if there is any money left, people like you and I will have accomplished too much to be eligible. They'll just give it to people who are living on the street. So I've been hearing all these dire predictions for the last 20-some years. And I hear political parties say, if you vote us in, we'll fix the problem. How long have I heard that Republicans want to privatize Social Security. How long have I heard that we need to cut back on government spending? How long have you and I heard any of these platitudes that come out of the mouths of politicians? You can make all the excuses that you want. You can say, oh, the Democrats obstructed that, or oh, the Republicans got in the way, they won't work with anyone. But if you support the political system, you're supporting the idea that people have to go out and vote, politicians have to run for re-election. That means things get done very slowly. And in the case of pretty much everything that's needed, or has been needed to right the ship in countries like the US, the UK, etc., politicians have not had the political will or the political capital to get those things done. So instead, they've been pandering to people, handing out money, running up deficits with stimulus programs, and sending every American an $800 check, telling them to go shopping. And so we believe here at Nomad Capitalist, as our tenet, that you have to be pragmatic and you have to take action to protect yourself. The government's not going away tomorrow, and your home country government's not going to be fixed by electing the right people. You have to decide what the course of action is. What are you going to do to fix your own personal situation? Here at Nomad Capitalist, we believe that we are all sovereign individuals. We're responsible for ourselves. Self-reliance, personal accountability. We don't believe in standing up to change the country. We don't believe in taking back America or standing up for Britain or whatever country we live in. We believe that, first and foremost, taking care of ourselves, and if we have families, taking care of our families is our most important priority. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we believe in the power of the individual. Individualism over collectivism, the idea that it's not our responsibility to save the rest of people in the world who don't want to be saved. If U.S. persons want to go out and run up a bigger and bigger national debt, engage in deficit spending, fight wars all around the world, send money to every corrupt government to buy them off, dole out welfare payments, Social Security payments, free health care to over 100 million people. If that's what U.S. persons, or British or Australians or whatever, if that's what they want to do in their country, far be it from us to stop them, because we won't. It's just not the pragmatic approach. The Western world, in many respects, is already gone, in that people don't understand how it is that their country got so wealthy, and therefore they don't know how to keep it from no longer being wealthy. I mean, think about that for a minute. If you live in the Western world, chances are most people that are your friends, your neighbors, people at your office, they have no idea why it is that they were born and they are living in a country that's so affluent. What is it that made their country affluent? And if you were to ask them, I highly doubt that many of them would say free trade, few regulations, low taxes or no taxes, government staying out of the way. Most people would not say that, because they don't even know how they got rich in the first place. They just know that, oh, we're rich, and over there they're poor, and they have no idea why. They don't bother to think about it. So how do you expect those people to make the right decisions to continue to stay rich? Because history has shown that they don't. They're making all of the wrong decisions. They're doing the exact opposite of what made their country rich because they believe that they're infallible. You won't stop them, because the tide has already turned in many of these countries, certainly in the United States and much of Europe. The tide has already turned. The people have spoken. They want their goodies, and they believe that there will be no rock bottom. They believe that people like you are tinfoil hat-wearing freaks for thinking that deficits, debts, profligate spending, endless wars, and everything else have consequences. You're responsible for you. You have to make the right decisions for you. It's not your obligation to stay there and earn money in your home country to pay it to a government, to prop up the government. I don't care how much American flag waving you want to do. you have zero obligation to stay in the United States and work and pay taxes to support the empire. If it's in your best interest, from a financial perspective, a freedom perspective, a personal perspective, a social perspective, whatever the case may be, if it's in your best interest to leave, you leave. Let the thugs in government and all the rest of the people who voted them into power, let them figure it out for themselves. That's their problem. You are not accountable to them. You're accountable only to you. Another nomad capitalist tenet. We believe that we are the ones who are responsible for our success, responsible for our own wealth. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we refuse to believe that others are responsible for what we have achieved. We saw this just recently. A fantastic example of this, I believe, with Eduardo Saverin, who was the co-founder of Facebook. You may remember if you watched the movie The Social Network, he was the guy that allegedly got screwed by Mark Zuckerberg. And they settled out of court, and now Eduardo Saverin is not really involved in the company, and he lives in Singapore. Well, Eduardo Saverin, who was born in Brazil and lived there for much of his childhood, his parents moved to the U.S. when he was a kid. He went to Harvard, started Facebook, and eventually decided that, much as I've decided, and much of many of you and many of our readers have decided, that the United States is no place for entrepreneurs. He saw the writing on the wall, and he left. He moved to Singapore, got Singaporean citizenship, and renounced his U.S. citizenship, which is a requirement of having Singaporean citizenship because they don't allow dual citizenship there. And you'll recall, people who listen to this show, you will recall, all the politicians got up and screamed bloody murder that Eduardo Saverin, who wasn't even born in the United States, had the power to say, I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to be a citizen anymore. And as a result, Eduardo Saverin saved himself some money in taxes. Despite the fact that Eduardo Saverin paid more money in taxes than tens of thousands of average Americans will, he still had to pay, I believe, hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. Despite that, the greedy thieves that run the U.S. government felt that wasn't enough. They're running around, popping veins in their forehead. They're so angry about a guy like that having the privilege to leave, as if he should just be chained to somewhere in the desert and is left there being tied to a computer, forced to create new websites and new businesses that the U.S. can tax and extract money from him. I mean, Chuck Schumer, Bobby Casey, these guys were all running around shoving their fat faces in front of any camera that would have them to talk about the evils of a guy who wasn't even born in the United States, coming to the United States, going to college, and then starting a business. As if there's some magic soil that starts at the stripe in the desert that is called the United States, and that ends at the stripe in the woods that is Canada. These politicians act as if there's some magic potion in the water that causes guys like Eduardo Saverin to create big businesses. They believe, politicians believe, and increasingly the electorate and your fellow citizens believe that your success is not yours. You didn't build that. Elizabeth Warren saying, if it weren't for our roads, you wouldn't have been successful. Elizabeth Warren forgets to mention all the people who started businesses over the years and now in backwater, pockmarked roads, countries, third world countries. There are plenty of people building wealth in places that don't have the infrastructure the United States has, but the word is out in the Western world, and that is that you didn't build that. You're not responsible for your success. You didn't work hard. You don't deserve it. And as a result, they should take it. Here at Nomad Capitalist, we believe that our success is ours. We're not responsible to anyone else. We don't have to answer to anyone else, and we do what is best for us. And we do that because we believe that, another Nomad Capitalist tenet, capitalism is the best cure. This is interesting because I've been in Cambodia a couple times in the last year. Every time I go there, it feels like a new place almost in Phnom Penh, the capital. Because there's always something going up. There's always a new building, always some new glassy restaurant, always some new store, always a new villa being opened. Now, I think some of these establishments that are being built are being built with dumb money. I saw a restaurant recently that I have to imagine cost $300,000 or $400,000 US to build. I would not be going to Cambodia and investing $300,000 or $400,000 in a restaurant. No way. I would happily go and invest $10,000 in something that's much more scaled down, because I do believe there's a lot of opportunity there. But what's interesting about Cambodia is when you go around and you talk to people who live there, when you talk to longtime residents, when you talk even to waiters, I've struck up conversations and actually befriended a few waiters over all the time that I've spent there. And they have a very poor opinion, largely, of the NGOs and other charities that are in Cambodia. Now, I hate to poo-poo charity because I like saving the animals. I like protecting kids from being in street gangs or being abducted. I would like to end human trafficking. Absolutely, there are problems in the world, and some charities do a decent job. But when you talk to people in Cambodia, the guys who are making $100 a month, the guys who you would think would want charity more than anyone else, they believe that those charities, and especially the non-government organizations, the NGOs, are a giant crock. They talk about these NGO workers coming to Cambodia, these white people who parade as do-gooders. And what do? No, they take their job, they go out and they do whatever they do during the day, and then they go home to their luxurious apartment in the Tony BKK1 district. They park their SUVs behind gates with armed guards. They're not part of the community. They're just there for a paycheck. Cambodians have seen through them. NGOs, charities largely, they're just there to, they're following Nomad Capitalist advice themselves. I guess they're looking out for number one, too. Because they're really not accomplishing much in the eyes of many of the locals. But what is accomplishing something in the eyes of the locals? Well, when you look at a $300,000 Chinese restaurant being built right in the middle of Phnom Penh, well, who do you think that business owner has to hire? He has to hire locals. He has to hire Cambodians. And because the business owner of that restaurant spent so much money building the establishment, he has to charge higher prices, attract a higher-end clientele. A higher-end clientele that is more likely to speak English, is more likely to demand high-class, high-quality service. Service that can be performed by waiters that make more money than those that work at traditional restaurants. That owner requires higher quality foods, maybe organic foods. It requires more skilled laborers to build the place. Requires higher-end liquors. Requires more things to be delivered. All of those things create better jobs, better paying jobs, more jobs. Capitalism is doing all the do-gooders haven't been able to do for years. I'm actually buying property right now in Cambodia, and I wrote about this on our website, 5 reasons why I'm buying in Cambodia. I'm actually going to be talking about this and walking people through what exactly it is that I've done at our Passport to Freedom event in January in Cancun. By the time we get to January, I'll have a lot of good data to share with people on how they can invest in Cambodian real estate too. But let's just talk about reality. Imagine for a moment that everyone came into Cambodia and did what I'm doing and bought up older style apartments, renovated them, and made them friendly for Western people, rented them out, sold them, whatever the case may be. all along the while employing people, employing construction workers, laborers, delivery guys, more jobs for importing of goods, more people employed at stores that sell those goods. Imagine if everyone did that. Imagine the wealth that would be created. That's why here at Nomad Capitalist we believe that the capitalism is the best cure. These are some of the tenets of Nomad Capitalist. We also don't believe in propaganda from governments, from media. We don't believe in any of the nonsense that comes out of the Western media that is largely used to reinforce the belief that government is the savior, government is the solution for all problems, more regulation is positive. We don't believe that. When we hear that Uber and companies like that offer private taxi services are being targeted by governments in France, in Germany, in New York City, we don't believe the propaganda that this is about taxi drivers' rights. No. We believe, again, that true capitalism, the real free market, two parties agreeing on a price and doing business without government beak-wetting involved, is the true definition of freedom. We don't believe the hype, the nonsense that tells us anything else. Because I don't care what media you're watching in the Western world, whether it's Fox News, whether it's whatever. Even some of the alternative media is pro-government, anti-free market, and it's telling you to be a slave. It's telling you to stay in a country and fight for the common good. Fight for the flag. Fight for your values, the American values or the British values. As if you can't define your own values wherever you live. As if you can't have American values if you invest in Cambodian real estate rather than buying declining, low-yielding residential real estate in the United States or in Canada or wherever it is you live. You have no obligation to prop up the system. These are the things that we believe here at Nomad Capitalist. I'm curious to hear your comments on this. We're looking at doing some live shows in the future. I'm curious to hear your comments on these tenets, as well as the opportunity to chime in on a live show in the future. Send me your comments. The email address is my name. It's andrew@nomadcapitalist.com, and we'll read through those and we'll react accordingly. Andrew@nomadcapitalist.com is the email, and make sure, by the way, that if you're not on the nomadcapitalist.com email list, that you get on that immediately. I've got, I'm handing this over to our crack staff here. I must have 25 or 30 amazing testimonials from people who signed up for the newsletter, who got all the stuff in the free crash course and said it was like nothing else they've ever gotten for free. We got to put this up on the website at some point. Make a note of that, John, that we'll put that up, because so many people are going on Twitter, Facebook, sending us emails. I mean, it's all over the place. It's like I have a file on my computer, and they're starting to accumulate all over. So many positive comments, and also positive comments about the Nomad Society, our premium club that I'm actually in Hong Kong meeting with our premium members today. We're going to have a big dinner tonight overlooking the city. And it's a great time to get together with our people and network. So if you're not in the free email newsletter, do that at nomadcapitalist.com. And if you haven't joined the Nomad Society, then you're missing out on not only a fantastic dinner tonight and contacts with great experts on second passports, second residencies, entrepreneurship here in Hong Kong, banking here in Hong Kong. We're going to be talking tonight about storing gold here. I just bought some gold, actually. I mean, you're not only missing out on all that great information, but you're missing out on the context by not being in the Nomad Society. So those are the two steps. Get the free newsletter, join the society, and join all the happy people who are part of this community. NomadCapitalist.com will continue. It is the Nomad Capitalist Report from Hong Kong at nomadcapitalist.com. And speaking of Nomad Capitalist tenets, I'm holding in in my hands here this morning's South China Morning Post. Here, the newspaper from Hong Kong that was hung on my hotel door this morning. We're going to be putting pictures up from the Nomad Society event that I'm here doing, including of the hotel, which is a fantastic place. And I got this South China Morning Post this morning, and here's what I see on the front page. U.S. job growth slows to 8-month low. Well, who would have guessed? The article comes from Reuters, and it talks about how job growth slowed sharply in the USSA last month, and more people gave up the hunt for work, giving a cautious Federal Reserve more reasons to wait a bit longer before raising interest rates. As if they need more reasons. As if the Federal Reserve needs any reason to do anything completely destructive. Do you ever notice how when you're flying on an airplane, and this is especially true in the land of the free, where the airlines, where they all stink, where you're flying and there's some mechanical problem, because especially in the U.S., those airlines fly a fleet of junk. There's always some mechanical problem, and they tell you, it'll be 15 minutes, and we'll be on our way. And then another 15 minutes later, we're still working on it. It'll be 15 more minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes at a time. And they've kind of figured out that if they feed you 15-minute delays one at a time, that you'll be a lot less frustrated and a lot less pissed off than if they said, we're going to be here for 3 hours. Deal with it. And that's kind of what the Federal Reserve does. That's what these central banks do. They just try, all right, well, eventually we'll fix the problem that we created. But they just kind of keep stringing you along. So the Federal Reserve said because of the declining number of people getting new jobs, they can't take action. South China Morning Post. It says economists had expected payrolls to rise 225,000 last month, but figures for June and July were revised to show fewer jobs were created than previously reported, adding to the weaker tone. And of course, the unemployment rate in the United States is artificially low. All these people, as the article is saying, dropping out of the workforce, they can't find work. Many of them can't start a business, and if they could, they'd be regulated to death. They'd be taxed to death. It wouldn't be worth it. So, U.S. job growth, 8-month low. Who would have thought? I thought I turned around, and every time I heard something from the U.S. media or the political hacks, they were talking about how 53 straight months of job creation. I can't keep track of all of the propaganda, but it seems like they're always talking about how things are so wonderful. Oh, it's all so wonderful. Looky, 6.1% unemployment rate. Things are wonderful again. Some people haven't had a job in years, and they're sitting around, just scratching themselves on their couch, trying to, dig through and find some change between the cushions. But as long as some number tells us everything's all right, then who cares? Pop the champagne. And then you find out the numbers aren't even accurate. And then you find out the numbers are heading in the wrong direction, but the politicians will spin it the right way. But here's something interesting. I'm turning the page here. This is this morning's newspaper here in Hong Kong. You won't get this news anywhere else, certainly not in the United States press. Here's page 2. Now keep in mind, this is coming from Hong Kong, which is not too happy with mainland China right now over what's happening with democracy in Hong Kong. But here's the page 2 of the business section of this morning's South China Morning Post. China to push market liberalization. Now remember, the U.S. is in the toilet, along with Western Europe and much of the Western world, because of what I always call the Paris Hilton effect, where they don't know why they're rich, they just know that they're kind of rich. They think that they're richer than they actually are, but they're still relatively wealthy, but they don't know why. They realize that it was because of low taxes, low regulations, personal responsibility, do as you please, just don't hurt anybody. They don't understand that that's what made them wealthy. So now because they have no idea, they're going out and just punishing everyone who has a buck to buy votes. So that's why the U.S. economy is in the toilet, and that's why job growth is slowing once again. And that's why every time U.S. job growth may look a little bit rosy, it won't stay that way for long, because the government will come in with some new policy and say, hey, give us more of your money. We got $100 trillion in red ink. We need your money, money, money. They can't get out of it. No statistic can fix it. But what they don't want you to know is that China is trying to push market liberalization. Now, this particular article is talking about in the transportation field, how China is going out, and this is a number of initiatives that China is engaging in to push market liberalization. Now, I'm not saying that China is perfect. There are a lot of problems up there in mainland China. But we're here in Hong Kong this weekend for a Nomad Society event, and a couple of the guys who are coming. One of the guys is a venture capitalist, and he's going to be talking to our members about the national anthem. This is entertaining when you first hear it. Kind of the de facto national motto, rather, of Hong Kong, which is make money, la. It's all about making money. It's all about capitalism. It's all about going out and how do we build a business. That is the Hong Kong mindset. Deep down, that is the Chinese mindset. Forget what the government has to say about it. That's how Chinese people think. They don't have a religion in China, for better, but they are in favor of making money. They believe in capitalism. At their core, that is what the Chinese culture believes in, is capitalism. And that's why I talk about Eastern Asia being a fantastic place, Southeast Asia, with not only the up-and-coming consumers that are making more and more money and all the opportunities that are here in Asia, but the fact that there is a deep-seated culture in this part of the world about making money, let people go out and run their business. And so no one else wants to talk about this, that China and that Hong Kong and that Asia, despite all their problems, and there are problems, things aren't perfectly rosy anywhere, but that at least these places are moving, even if it's slowly, in the right direction. The Western world's heading in the wrong direction. Their currencies are heading in the wrong direction. The dollar's down 97, 98% in 100 years. It's in the toilet. The police state's heading in the wrong direction. The military's heading in the wrong direction. Spending's in the right direction. Wealth confiscation in the wrong direction. Bank solvency heading in the wrong direction. Everything in the Western world is heading in the wrong direction. You don't have to like China, but this narrative that's put out there about evil China, at least they understand how money is made. They understand that they need to open up places like they did 30 years ago in Shenzhen, just across the border here in Hong Kong. They need to open up places where capitalism can flourish. They understand that's what makes money. The United States does not. And I have to tell you, we were out last night, the members here at our Nomad Society event. We do 4 of these events every year for members. And I was talking to a couple guys who are new members of the club, and they came out because they wanted to learn about all the stuff we're talking about. I mean, they're new and they need all the information. Great guys. And they're saying, we've thought about offshore for some time. We grew up in the U.S., grew up in Canada. We said, why are we paying so much money? We want to start a business. We want to keep our own money. Novel concept, right? But we looked into offshore years ago, and all we found were a bunch of guys on far-flung islands with these websites that looked like they were still on, GeoCities. Remember GeoCities from 20 years ago? These websites that, had like you'd go there and like a song would play in the background. We went to these offshore websites, and there were just guys that it didn't feel right. They said, we found your site, and we feel like, we love what you're doing. We love that you put your name and your face out there, your real name, your real face. You're out there. You're transparent. We feel like we can trust you. And that's why we're part of this club, and that's why we're supporting what you're doing. We feel like you're transforming the business. Now, even people in the offshore business don't want to talk about this kind of news because it seems that so many guys out there, not everybody, there's some great people in this business that have been on this show. They're friends of mine. But many of the guys, even in this industry, when they talk about thinking globally, they have an agenda. They're going to tell you China bad. They're going to tell you this place is bad, this place is good. Now, forget the fact that you can follow the money, because many of them are promoting their various pet projects around the world. Many of them are part of the cliques and the cabals that we talked about on a show a week or two ago. But this is fundamentally the difference between what we're doing here at Nomad Capitalist and what many other people in this business are doing. For example, I have been banned from a website, from even pretty much looking at it, looking at the Facebook page, looking at the Twitter page, by a company that talks all about internationalization, but has a big office in the United States. And I have to point this out because I want to cooperate. I believe that a rising tide lifts all boats. I think that there should be cooperation in the offshore world, at least among those of us who are honest and trying to do the right thing by our customers and aren't just sitting on some rocks somewhere trying to rip people off. That's a whole different story. But there is a company out there that they're in some shiny office somewhere in the United States, holding events in the United States with guys who are working in the United States telling you how you need to get out of the United States. Now, we have surpassed these people in traffic, and just look at Passport to Freedom last year. It was, from everyone I've talked to who goes to all the conferences, it was the best attended offshore event of the year. Forget the fact I'd never hosted a conference before in my entire life. But I find it interesting that, maybe it's because I talk about China. Maybe it's because I talk about places that the average person is not talking about. We're doing an event for our members in Nicaragua in November. Everyone else is still talking about Panama, Costa Rica. I'm talking about Nicaragua because I believe that's the next place. Maybe that's why I was banned from this, I guess you could say, competitor's website. I don't look at them as a competitor. I think we can all work together, but apparently they view me as a competitor because they banned me from even viewing any of their content. If I want to type a comment or if I want to like one of their posts on Facebook, it says you're not allowed to do that. They've banned you. But interestingly enough, that for some reason they don't like what I'm talking about. For some reason, they have their own pet projects, I guess. But look, you have to decide who you want to trust. Do you want to trust someone who's actually traveling the world and actually investing in other countries and actually living the lifestyle that he's talking about, or do you want to trust guys who are still in the United States and while they're telling you to get out? Now, look, I understand that some of these guys. Look, they went to lots of college. They got lots of degrees and fancy letters after their name. I can understand why some of them do it. One of them is a very short man, for instance. But to ban me? I'm not banning anyone from my side. But ultimately what it boils down to is this. I think that people who listen to this show, most of you are probably like me. You're scrappy guys, scrappy girls. No one handed you anything in life. You had to make it all on your own. When I started my radio business, I had $1,000 to my name. No one gave me anything. In fact, everyone said I was doomed to fail, and they all made fun of me. And they all took pot shots at me, the same way that people have done in pretty much every business I've started. That's the curse of being an entrepreneur. You have to have a tough skin. But I think many of you are like me, that you don't have the advantages. You're not the guy who's sitting in the shiny office tower in the United States. You don't have backing from some big conglomerate. And that's exactly what Nomad Capitalist is all about. I'm doing this stuff because I'd be doing it anyway. Because I believe in it personally. I live the lifestyle. I'm not even flying through the United States, let alone spend time there, let alone live there. When I go to Passport to Freedom in Cancun for our conference in January, I'm flying from Asia to either Frankfurt or London, and then to Mexico City, where I'll catch a local cheapy flight to Cancun. I don't want the TSA to have one chance to grab my crotch. I'm done. The last time I flew out of LAX to Taipei, that was the last chance they had, and I felt a little bit badly because I was talking to the TSA supervisor and telling her the whole story. Hey, look, this is part of why I'm leaving and not coming back. And she actually was kind of pleasant about it, which made me kind of upset. But listen, I'm not in the United States. There are guys in this business who actually do live and travel all around the world, and that's how they run their business. They're authentic. And then there are other guys who they tell you all this stuff, and then they say, please send a check to our Florida offices, right? I mean, who do you want to believe? And look, I encourage you to read all of this stuff. I'm not telling you to not read other sites. I'm telling you to absorb all the information because everyone has something to offer. But it makes me question why someone would ban me. I don't know. I guess some people don't like the message that we put out here. They don't like the fact that I don't have an agenda. If China does something positive, I'll talk about it. I'm not just going to pair it with the mainstream media says. That's all. What more can I say? NomadCapitalist.com is the website. Passport to Freedom, by the way. We're almost ready to release tickets. Thanks to all of you who wrote in. We're going to be opening it up to the general public soon. And I've been doing a lot of big interviews. I was on John Lee Dumas' show the other day, and that's going to be coming out sometime in October. So there's a lot of big interviews we're doing, getting the word out about Passport to Freedom. So if you're interested in coming to that, then you're going to want to act quickly because tickets will sell out. And all the guys who are coming here and hanging out with us in Hong Kong, this members event, everyone I've talked to is coming. We've got a great crew, guys who are running big businesses, guys who are developing property, guys who are running online businesses. We've got a great group. And in addition to all the speakers you're going to hear, all the experts I'm bringing in, not the typical guys you can hear everywhere else, but new, fresh faces. In addition to all that, you're going to have one of the best chances of your life to network with other people who are like-minded, who understand what you are going through, and also want people to talk to them without the hype, without the agenda, without the BS. January 15, 16, and 17. We're working on some big A-listers right now, by the way, so if you get it now, you're going to get the benefits of all of that before prices go up, too. January 15th, 16th, and 17th. Keep up to date at nomadcapitalist.com. I'll continue. Stay on nomadcapitalist.com for the latest on Passport to Freedom, January 15th, 16th, and 17th. That is coming soon. I'll be in Tokyo after leaving Hong Kong in our members event. So much fun it will be to report on the goings-on in that basket case.